welcome everybody as you're coming in. We want to thank you for taking some time today to meet with us. You are here for one of the 35M professional development webinars. Today, we're going to have the opportunity to learn from Amplify about their Science of Reading, the Learning Lab. And let's get started. So I want to just introduce, I want to let you know what the process has been. So over the past 2 weeks, Wayne Risa has collaborated with vendors who have been identified on the 35M professional development list to offer webinars that provide an overview of their products and services. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about Amplify's product during this 1-hour session. At the end of the week, once all sessions have concluded, we will share webinar recordings and information that has been shared by the vendor. If you'd like earlier access to this, please visit our grant website at grants.risa.net. Under the 35M section, you will find an updated recordings list and vendor materials as they become available. It's taking us about 48 hours to get through the videos and get them up online. So today, if you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A. If you're not seeing the Q&A on your chat bar, then you can use the actual chat, and that will go directly to the panelists and and myself. So you don't have to worry about everybody seeing the question you're asking. And you can find this again on the toolbar. So Wayne Risa does not endorse specific providers. These webinars are offered as a service to help districts make informed decisions about 35M grant spending. For questions about specific products, please feel free to contact the vendors directly. If you're a Wayne County district or school and would like support in identifying instructional needs or developing a plan for purchasing and adopting materials, we invite you to reach out to Wayne Risa consultant. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and invite Sharon Vanetti to share her screen.
Okay. There we go. Can everyone see my screen?
We can.
Perfect.
Yeah, I will speak briefly. My name is Heather Freeman. I am the account executive for Amplify. I cover Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County, pretty much the Detroit metro area. I've got Karen Vendetti with me. We're going to talk about today our the professional learning, the PD that we were picked for on the 35M list. And like Carrie said, if you guys have questions, please ask, and we will do our best to answer. So go ahead, Karen.
All right. Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate that, Carrie and Heather. Really here to share with you our professional learning response. And so some of you may not know Amplify, and so I try to make this a little fun. You didn't know you were going to get a little history lesson at the beginning of this webinar. But we like to share that, we started if you look in the corner, with this little device. And I do like to share one of the real devices. I usually ask, and feel free to put in the chat if you are inclined, do you know what this device is? Because that's where we started about 25 years ago. And if any of you are brave to answer, it is a Palm Pilot. And Amplify was very focused on getting the needs of teachers met through a variety of tools, mobile classroom, getting back there, anything you can do with the mobile device. We wanted people to be able to do that. Now, 25 years later, you can see we have come a long way, and the Science of Reading, the podcast, may be more familiar to you because we've really tried to address the needs of teachers again, it started as assessment, but we really ventured into the world of research. So you may also want to understand Amplify as a system. And so we think about that assessment, and going back, that Dibbles assessment on that device, that little Palm Pilot, that's where we started utilizing Dibbles. We also have CKLA, and you may be familiar with that because of the grant and the listing where CKLA was first on that list. And we're really proud of that. And I know Heather's had a lot of meetings with folks related to that. But when you think about all of those pieces working together, it really was undergirded by that staff development, training. We know how important that is, and that's what really works with all of our products. So that's where we're going to focus on today, that professional development. And the agenda for you, I just give you a little quick synopsis. We're going to talk about how this course was developed, how the Learning Lab was developed, options that you have for that, as well as thinking about those objectives that align to that 3-course sequence, because it is a separate 3-course sequence. The pacing guides and preview passes are something I'm going to go into, and then we're going to give you a little bit of time at the end to explore so that you can dig in at your pace and how you like to dig in. But we'll give you the option to do that with some QR codes and some PDFs. Questions, as Carrie shared, if you'd like to put those in the Q&A, we are happy to take those or in the chat. We'll give you some time for that. And then those next steps and exploration time. So we're not going to keep you that full hour. I know at the end of the school year, your time is so valuable to give back to you. And so we're going to walk you through some things, but then give you a little time to do that on your own. All right. So if you can drop in the chat, I'm not sure we will get those results, but we just like people to think about, where are you or your districts, depending on who's attending or watching the webinar today, where are you in terms of that research around the science of teaching reading? And for those of you that might be listening, is it one, what is science of reading, or 5, I could lead the session in it. So maybe you're somewhere in that journey, but just to think about that. One of the things about the development of the course, we really tried to take into consideration that folks may be at a wide variety of levels, and we didn't want to just address it at the basic level. We wanted to make sure everyone was going to be able to get what they needed from the professional development. Now, you may also recognize this lady. For those, and again, I always love to involve people and get you in the chat, because Susan, for those of you that aren't seeing the screen, Susan Lambert, the podcast host of Science of Reading, was really instrumental in developing this course. And she took all of that information from the tremendous work that they had been doing on the podcast. Some of you might have a favorite episode. You may be very familiar. Some of you may not, but you can get such great information. And it really was all about the research. It was never about various products or tools. It was really about the researchers and their research, and giving people as much information as possible, really digging into the background in the science of reading. And so taking that into consideration, we wanted to utilize Susan's expertise and take what we learned from the podcast. And so you can see, if you're not seeing the screen, you can know that Dr. Moats, Dr. Kimiona Burke, and Dr. Katz, those are 3 examples of episodes where we might have taken an excerpt, or we might have used some research articles, because we are sharing lots of materials and lots of resources to support you in your development. But these are 3 examples of types of information that are going to guide what you're doing in the coursework. And it's not just those 3, because there are a number of wonderful researchers that are included throughout, because every course has a little bit of a different focus. And so our listeners, if you're, that was another thing. We wanted to make sure we took what they were sharing and taking all that information from listeners and putting it into the coursework. And so knowing that podcast really drove so much in terms of change and enabling people to shift, we took all of that and, again, really built that into our development of the Learning Lab. And so taking that into consideration, Susan guides you through the Learning Lab. So she takes you on a little bit of a different journey in each one of those courses. In the first course, it's more of a little bit of Susan talking to you with some lecture, but with active engagement from teachers. And again, I will walk you through this a little bit. The second course is Susan and another researcher talking about assessment and really digging into assessment from universal screening to formative and summative data and collecting that data. And then in the last course, we're really digging into videos and examples and going into classrooms. And Susan walks you along that journey and really talks to you about the application. So it's really neat for those of you that know Susan from the podcast. You'll get to experience her within the 3 different courses. And so I'm going to give you a little taste. If you don't know Susan, I'm going to give you a little taste of her talking about the course.
Hello, I'm Susan Lambert, host of Amplify's Science of Reading, the podcast. Throughout 3 years and almost 4 million downloads, we've seen interest in the science of reading everywhere, from professional conferences to Forbes magazine and the front page of the New York Times. In fact, the term is so popular, it's now being used in ways that may or may not align with the actual research. Our podcast audience and the educators I meet with every day have told us there's a real need for research-based professional development that's current, relevant, and always grounded in evidence. And so we're thrilled to bring you Science of Reading, the Learning Lab. This cutting-edge professional learning series will help you gain the literacy knowledge and skills you need to thrive and help your students thrive.
All right, we'll stop there. We'll let you finish that. Actually, in the series of courses, we're going to dig in, continuing with that development of the coursework. Our goal, we really wanted to make sure to continue to develop teachers' understanding using research-based practices and that application. With that goal is really the application of teachers in a classroom setting or in an intervention setting, however you use that, but really trying to have teachers apply what they're learning from those courses. The format, we've got 3 courses, and it's self-paced. They are 25 hours each for the first 2 courses and 30 hours for the last course. So you're going to have 80 hours of coursework, and that can be done in a wide variety of ways. So again, across a year, it varies based on how you actually progress through the course. The structure is 8 modules. Each module is going to have 3 or 4 lessons within. And so we will explore that so you can see one of those modules and see what it looks like. The alignment to the IDA standards, the knowledge and practice standards, is something that was very important to us, knowing that that is a huge need across the country. And so we've got a document, and Heather can share that, or Carrie can share that later, where it shows the alignment of all of the courses and the lessons and where those standards are addressed within the modules. And then thinking about those varying levels of understanding when teachers and leaders come in, we wanted to make sure that it was designed so that a newer teacher would get a lot out of it, as well as someone who has gone through other trainings with reading research. And that is some of the wonderful feedback we received in the development when we were working through the beta stages of the coursework. People that had been trained in a wide variety, whether it was a letters train or various coursework in colleges, they felt that they were still able to get a lot of information, valuable tools to be able to apply to their practice, regardless of the level of their in terms of previous background. So the standards alignment, as you can see, going by in the modules themselves and hitting on all of those objectives and how those are aligned to the practice standards. Now, you can use this QR code, and I'm going to give you some other QR codes at the end so that you can get into the coursework as well. But we will share those with you at the end, so you don't have to feel like you have to use that, the QR code, or go into that. Now, think about how you would learn in terms of the best method for yourselves, because this is designed to utilize materials, the research, videos, interactive Q&A, the assessments that you will, self-assessments that you will get immediate feedback on, those sessions that are led by Susan and others, the other experts in the field, all of that is part of the development of that coursework. And we developed it so that as an independent person, I went through the courses all by myself. Now, I did have some ability to converse with folks through a sharing option, but I was somebody that wanted to go through on my own, and that was me, and applying it to my situation. We've seen folks use team-based learning with grade level options or content areas, having that collaboration, having those discussion boards to go back to, or using a PLC to be able to do that. And then school-wide, we've seen it in that way as well, that shared learning that you can go cross grade level, because it is interesting to see what's happening in both a kindergarten and a fifth grade classroom, so that teachers can see how this is applicable across the board. One of the things we've heard from districts who have purchased and utilized the resources in a very large capacity, we've had districts actually have their new teachers participate in this as a onboarding process. We've had teachers that are alternative certification folks gone through the coursework through those districts as well, because they don't know what all the certification requirements in terms of coming in that teachers have gotten. We all know that. I was formerly in the higher ed setting, and I know that it really can vary what teachers are getting in terms of teacher preparation. And so that this was something that a district decided to utilize for their alternative cert folks. So there are a wide range, and we'd love to hear from others who are utilizing it, because it is a new, this is a really hot off the presses in terms of all three of our courses, it just being released in the spring. And so we really do want to continue to hear from folks utilizing the courses. And so you can see that we actually have a Michigan teacher. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. And she's talking about the second course on assessment, the advanced topics in the science of reading, dug deep into assessments and the crucial role they play in ensuring all students are receiving the support that they may need or that may be needed. The applications and key activities throughout the course were engaging and informative. I have a notebook full of ideas and suggestions for the new school year. And isn't that valuable to be able to go immediately and apply that, getting right off the bat? And so we love to hear from teachers using it. I always do try to engage when I'm in a webinar setting. And so I would love for you to think about, you don't have to drop in the chat, but what do you think about which learning option is most appealing to you? Or if you're working with districts from a leadership level, which learning option is going to appeal most to those in the school? Is it an independent type of study? Is it with that team grade level or a content team? Or is it school-wide or even district-wide when we think about that as well? And so I hope you're thinking about that as we kind of walk through some of the coursework. So each course, it's a 3-course sequence, and the expectation would be to start with course 1 and move to course 2 and 3. And so each course is going to have learning objectives. And so just going through those very quickly, learning objectives for course 1, the foundations, is to build knowledge of and foster confidence in science of reading so teachers and leaders implement highly effective literacy instruction. And we know that can require a shift. And so that is something we're really considering when these objectives were developed. Understand the why and how behind the development of proficient readers and writers. We know teachers frequently ask about that. Why are we doing this? And so that gives you the answers in that foundations. And to strengthen your understanding of evidence-based literacy instruction with content and research from leading experts in the field of literacy. And so thinking about that, we really do know that folks come in with lots of different levels of understanding. And so going back to those experts, similar to the intention of the development of the podcast initially, going back to those experts is a critical piece. So we're going to do that. Now, we also wanted you to hear from various folks across the country. And so I'll give you this is someone who wrote just on course 1. Completing this course has been transformative for both me and my students. It has provided me with evidence-based strategies that support their literacy. cutting me off, literacy skills, ensuring that they develop strong reading comprehension and vocabulary from a young age. This course has optimized my approach and given me clarity to integrate theory into practice in the classroom, allowing me to create more effective and dynamic teaching experiences. And how wonderful is that? Everyone benefits from that. The students, the teachers, all educators involved in that. And so hearing from folks, that's important to us. Now, each course is going to have a pacing guide that is going to give you monthly guidance, walking you through if you do this in, let's just say, a 1 year each course. But you can do it based on your pacing as you see fit. You're going to get a preview pass, and so that you'll be able to go into that course and get a little taste of it. So we took a couple lessons from the modules so that you could see the various ways that you're going to be able to experience that. When you go into that course preview pass, you will have to create an account. So it's just an email and a password, and then sign up for that. And that will enable you to get into that course and really see that. I think I'm going to escape out here before I go into the other learning objectives. And I'm going to go into one of the, are you seeing my pacing guide, Heather? Great.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm into the course 1 pacing guide, and each course has a pacing guide with a letter from Susan to begin with. And so as you can see, and maybe I'll blow this up a little bit so we can, those of you that can't see the screen, it's going to give that welcome video. And so you're going to get a video that you would see at the beginning of the course. So you can get a taste of what is this course 1 all about, and that introduction. So you can watch these videos before you look at what the lessons are all about. Again, I said there were 3 lessons per module in courses 1 and 2. And in course 3, you're going to see 4 lessons per module. It's going to walk you through each of those. And again, it's laid out on a month-by-month basis. You don't have to do it in that pace. Again, it's about 25 hours. We do know that people work at different paces, and sometimes people, because there is enough research and enough in terms of the articles and the videos, that you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. In terms of the course, I'm going to jump from this. So I'm going to scroll back up so you can see the course 1 foundations. We're going to jump to the course 1, and it may have kicked me out. Sometimes it logs me out. But this is where you'll come when you have your preview and the pass that you'll sign up for with that account. And so you can see I have gone through a little bit of this, and it tells me how much I've completed. Scrolling down here, it's going to give you a little bit of an overview, and it talks about how you can dig in more and get more. Now, going into this section, I'm just going to click on that first Science of Reading section. And here's the video that you're going to see that would be in that pacing guide. So some people may start with the pacing guide. Some people may not even look at the pacing guide. And you're going to get that video from Susan. And I won't play much of it. It's just your introduction.
Hello, I'm Susan Lambert, host of Science of Reading the podcast. If you're one of our thousands of listeners,
And we'll stop there. Scrolling down, you can see if either way I scroll, this is going to give me lots of links to resources. And all of these are tied to the foundations. It tells me about the course structure. And again, we've kind of walked through some of this, but all those checks for understandings, those for you. So you are aware of how am I doing? How am I grasping this? The lectures, the learning links, because you can extend your learning as much as you want. There are so many wonderful research articles tied to this that you can dig deeper and share. I mean, it's nice to be able to share those with others. The implementation options, as I shared, that flexible learning, it is going to ask you to set personal goals or reflect a lot of reflection within the course. How is this going to be applied to my classroom or to my particular role as a coach, as a leader? And again, providing ways to have this within a professional learning community. I can click next here, or I can scroll on the side. It's up to me. Here are those knowledge and practice standards. Again, also aligning this module in lesson 1 to what is the NAEP. And because we hear about NAEP data all the time, as I scroll down, going to the next section, this is my notebook. And so again, this is just a quick, you notice it says preview past materials. So this is only a few pages tied to the module lessons that you would be walking through. But you can see, I mean, I've got mine and for the second course. It's a large notebook. I've taken lots of notes. That's just my style. You don't have to do that. You can use this in a digital format as well. And so you can type right in there. It's totally up to you. So again, we have all different, I'm a little older learner, a little seasoned, a little veteran. And so I do like my hard copy. Going back
Hey,
again,
Karen,
yes.
we got a few questions. You mind if we jump right
Yeah,
in?
sure, you did. Please do.
Okay, so the first question is, did I hear that correctly? Is each course equal 1 year? So 3 courses is a 3-year commitment.
So as I said, it's really a 25-hour commitment. And so depending on how you choose to implement, I took all the courses in 1 year. And so, across the time of a year, it really, really, again, it depends on the learners.
Okay. And then the next question is, once you complete the courses, how long do you have access to all the online resources?
I believe
The
it
great
is
question.
1 year from the course. And
I think
let's
you're
follow
correct.
up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are correct. I think it's a year that you have access to all the resources.
Correct. And some of the things, all of the things like the articles, I always download them as I'm into them and saving them in my folder because that's me. I do want to come back to those things. So definitely feel free to download those materials as you're using them. Other questions, Heather?
That's it for now.
All right. Keeping on going, again, our objectives, asking you, starting, what are you hoping to get from the course? Again, we really are asking for you to really reflect, talking about confidentiality and respect for that. And again, this is a very basic little check for understanding. And I answered yes, and I knew I got that correct. So going to that next section, that module. So we're giving you a taste of module 5. Remember, we said there are 8 modules within this, and this is the vocabulary and text structure section. And again, we only gave you a little taste. So just to get a taste of what it's all about. This is going to give you an overview. So again, you get a wide range of experiences, a 3-minute overview. This is asking you to reflect, always asking you to reflect and respond. Thinking about where the lessons fall in. And again, you've got your Learning Lab notebook, so you'll be going back to that in terms of the application. Giving you that objective on that lesson and giving you, here is an image and really talking about that 4-part processing model. Nancy Hennessy, those of you who might be familiar with any of her podcast interviews because she has been on the Science of Reading the podcast. Here is hearing from her at the bottom. We're going to give you a taste, a 14 minutes. So for those of you that are really familiar with the podcast, and I know many folks are, the beauty of the coursework is that we took those pieces that really highlighted or homed in on what was necessary relating to the question, relating to the ideas that we were sharing, that 4-part processing model. So in terms of what Nancy is sharing in deconstructing the rope, this 14-minute clip is really homing in on that and getting to those 3 questions that we're asking in the Learning Lab notebook. And I think that's a really, really important piece because I don't know about you all. I do keep up with the podcast, but it's hard. And there are 60 minutes and they are really, really dense in terms of the content. So we've really tried to bring that out in terms of what will be the salient piece exactly pointing to what we're talking about within this context. And again, a little quick answer of questions, true, false. And then really getting here, notice I didn't type an answer here. I didn't store an answer here. So they're telling me that. And it will tell me on the side as well that I may not have answered all of that and to try again. So really digging into that. If I wanted to next, I didn't store the answer. Going back to my Learning Lab notebook, here is an article link to that by Susan Newman and Tanya Wright. Some of you may be very familiar with those ladies and the research going towards teaching vocabulary. And you can print this or you can read it online, again, blowing it up, however you choose to take the course. But you can download this and keep that. I love the articles that are tied to the quick session or sections of the podcast. And again, going through, it gives you the, the reference to the whole article that you can find online if you want to share that with others. And now getting teachers to reflect. I guess I took the easy way out. I didn't take the typing and I put it in my own notebook. Going back to that, now talking about a grade 2 lesson and looking at that in that notebook. So you can actually go into that, and I won't click on that, but you can look at lessons and apply that to that. Here are some additional links. Notice the additional links are really trying to be a multimodal. We've got a listening activity, we've got a watching activity, and a reading activity, really trying to get teachers for extensions to learn more and trying to meet folks where they are coming from in terms of their needs and desires to learn more. You can then get into lesson 2. So that was really digging into lesson 1. I can walk through lesson 2. You can scroll and go back and forth on the sidebar. So it's really up to you. For the preview pass, once you got through this lesson, or you can jump to this, if someone wanted to request a quote, they can do that here. And I've got a little slide on that at the end of the presentation. So this was really a quick taste of what you can see going through that coursework, and that's course 1. I won't necessarily go into, we'll just really quickly go through the course objectives for the other courses and to think about what you're going to do in the second and third course. So the second course is really related to assessment a great deal. So as you can see, understand the purpose and when to administer screening, diagnostic, progress monitoring, and outcome assessments. Utilizing knowledge of assessment types to analyze profiles of struggling readers, as well as distinguishing the characteristics of reading difficulties, including dyslexia, to identify instructional supports and accommodations. So we're getting folks thinking about all of those things, and it's a really rich course using high quality instructional and assessment resources in all of the coursework. Here's a teacher sharing what that person thought of going through course 2. I really appreciate how this course took us through the different pieces of literacy assessment and started out more broadly and became more granular as we dug into each specific type of assessment. I think it explained how to analyze data well by providing demonstrations from classes and scenarios. And the extra links are always really helpful for additional learning opportunities. And this one in particular, I think about when you think about newer teachers, when you're graduating with your degree and you're getting your certification, that's a lot to take in. Once you're in the application stage, things change and we realize we may not have all the knowledge that we need. So this really gets us into those classrooms and scenarios that might be applicable to us. So again, I'm going to give you this at the end. You've got that pacing guide and you've got that preview pass for course 2 in assessment. And our last course, course 3, really digging in to structured literacy. Identify and apply effective structured literacy practices, apply knowledge of literacy acquisition and effective instructional and assessment practices to teaching, identify and apply understanding, effective assessment administration, and analysis. So in this case, you're really looking at that structured literacy and tying in back to course 2, where the effective assessment administration and analysis comes in related to that. Here's somebody talking about the last course. I love the different modes of learning, like podcasts, articles, videos, etc. And the different ways to assess, like written reflections, multiple choice, or true false. The information was stellar, and I could really connect and apply it to my current practice. I love hearing from teachers because we all know applying it to our real world situation is where the rubber meets the road and what we really want to be able to do. And so you're going to get the 3 pacing guides. Here are and if you want to use this now, these QR codes, I didn't want to give you all 6 for the pacing guides and the pacing guides. So we're going to give, because those are PDFs, so we can easily send to you. And links we are sending to you to the preview passes. But if you are on the call and you do want to utilize the QR codes, feel free to click on these, get them uploaded and ready to go so that you can take a sneak peek at all 3 courses and kind of walk through that. We were going to leave you with that so that you do have time to do that on your own. In terms of the pricing, there is a little bit of flexibility, but if you're talking about just jumping into course 1, it is $79 for that course access. I know that Heather is probably going to share a 1-page document that really digs a little bit deeper into that. So again, you can learn more about that. If there are questions, and I know, thank you, Heather, I love getting questions as they're being asked, and I know people appreciate that. But if there are additional questions now, we're happy to answer those for you. If anybody wants to come off mute, I don't know if Carrie is able to do that, or if it's set up to hear from our.
So I'm going to, I am going to thank everybody for coming and for being here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording. And then if you would like to come off, you are welcome to come off mute and you can answer a question. So thank you everyone for being here. And I am going to stop the recording.